about tapping into our hardwired hunger to connect. We examine meaningful connections to ourselves, our community, and the world around us. By opening the door to innovative insights by a wide variety of interesting guests, we'll make the connections to something bigger than ourselves. Join me, Lori Fitz, your host of Connections Radio Show, and together we'll make the connections. Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of entertainment. Make your reservations for a parade of international, national, and local artists in the main stage showroom, the intimate Dunsmore Jazz Room, or outdoors at the seasonal Belvedere Under the Stars space. Or enjoy Maggie's Piano Lounge. Enjoy 4-star food and drinks with first-class supper club service. What are you waiting for? Go to croonersmn.com for more information and schedule. That's croonersmn.com.
Brush up on your creativity at Twin Cities Pride's Paint by Numbers Night Out. Join the fun on Saturday, April 26th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Pride Cultural Arts Center. Whether you're a seasoned artist or can barely draw a stick figure, this is your chance to relax, paint, and connect with your community. For just $35, you'll get a Paint by Numbers kit, light refreshments, and a fun, relaxed space to let your inner artist shine. Come solo or bring a friend. Everyone's welcome. More info at tcpride.org. That's tcpride.org.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Sunshine today with a high of 62, then overnight a chance of rain with a low of 46. For more than 40 years, the Great Wall Restaurant has been serving up Szechuan and Mandarin favorites. The Great Wall is located just north of 50th in France on the Minneapolis-Edina City line. Check them out at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome to the Gaily Show. I am your host, John Parker, executive producer Jim Pounds. How are you today?
I'm good. John, how are you?
I am well, I think. Patrick, how are you?
Doing pretty well. Glad to be back on this Monday afternoon.
Did everyone have a good weekend?
Yes.
Okay,
I'd say it was pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty good, yeah.
I know I keep saying this, but if it does not warm up, like, I'm going to lose my mind. It's that time of the spring where it's cold, but it's starting to warm up and it keeps swinging back and forth. And
I thought Michiganders were more hardy than you have proven to be.
I am Armenian American.
Okay.
Right?
So
Okay.
that's the problem.
So the deal I've made with the Midwest is I will complain about every flake of snow, but I will not complain about a degree over 70.
Okay.
So time to go the other way.
Yep.
Anyway, our call-in number, 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. What LGBTQ-related news or stories is on your mind today? What are you talking about with your friends and family? Call in. Let's talk about it. 952-946-6205. While we're waiting for your calls, what is on the show today? Well, the Trump administration... Oh, actually, breaking news. The Dow has dropped 1,000 points amid the business president's trade war and criticism of the Fed. So this is AP News as of about 10, 20 minutes ago. The S&P 500 was down 2.6% and was 16% below its record set 2 months ago. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 1,000 points today.
And I don't mean to laugh. I mean, we've lost a lot of money like everybody else, and it's tragic. But if this doesn't kill the myth that Republicans get some automatic pass about the economy, I got news for you. You have to have a good business person, and that this guy's the
business president tanking the economy.
Yeah.
So speaking of the economy, the Trump administration wants the UK to repeal its anti-hate speech laws if they want a trade deal with the US. Alabama is passing its own Don't Say Gay bill for all grades, pre-K up to 12th grade. Did MAGA turn on Representative Nancy Mace? Yes, let's rub it in. And finally, we're going to have a new segment here on The Gaily Show called Is it left-wing extremism? This will be a segment where we're going to take a serious look at an idea that the progressives have where they're labeled as extreme by MAGA and quote-unquote centrists. So we're going to take a look today at taxes and ask, are our policies left-wing extremism? But first, This Is It has closed, and I'm very sad to learn about this. This Is It was a popular gay bar opened in downtown Milwaukee in 1968, and it closed yesterday.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Wisconsin Public Radio reporting that a social media post on the bar's Facebook page said that This Is It would have celebrated its 57th anniversary
Wow.
this summer, but the celebration, unfortunately, will not happen. They cited the COVID crisis and the years following 2020, coupled with apparently an 8-month closure of their street and sidewalk last year, put the business in a position that they could not ultimately overcome, they wrote in their Facebook post. Judy Brem opened the bar in 1968. The Wisconsin LGBTQ History Project did some research, and they found that This Is It was the oldest continuously operating gay bar in Wisconsin, and it was also one of the oldest in the United States, in the top 10 oldest gay bars in the country. And this was a place that was the site for celebrating the non-discrimination passage of the ordinance in 1980, the gay rights law in 1982, the first annual Pride March and Rally of 1989, celebrations there. When Tammy Baldwin won her election in 1998, the celebration was there. Local marriage equality celebration in 2014, the national marriage equality in 2015. You get the idea.
Well,
this was such a huge part of Milwaukee's LGBTQ history.
1968, that's just think about what happened in 1968 and what a long view that is in their rearview mirror. And, you know, bars don't last forever, but that was a good long run, I would say.
I mean, this would be sort of analogous in the cities here in Minneapolis if the gay 90s closed.
Yeah, I wonder
just an institution.
if This Is It was gay owned. The 90s
Yeah,
is not, but was it gay owned? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm even sorrier.
Yeah, queer women leading the way.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. There are other LGBTQ bars in Milwaukee, but this is a huge, huge loss. And, you know, yes, it's important to do road construction and to add pathways and all of that. But when you close a road and sidewalk for 8 months, I mean, the damage that can do to to a business like an LGBTQ bar is just, it's critical. And I want to mention a really great podcast, Lost Spaces. They do interviews with folks about queer spaces queer bars and clubs that closed down. So a great way to memorialize This Is It, reach out to Lost Spaces and tell them that you want to have a conversation about your experiences at This Is It. And you'd be joining an amazing archive of LGBTQ bars and clubs in the US, in the UK, some even in Australia that they have closed down now. And it is such a wonderful archive that this podcast is doing. It's not just a podcast, it's memorializing and keeping our history alive. And so just Google Lost Spaces. You can go there, tell them that you want to tell your story about This Is It.
Do you think, can I add one story to all the things you're going to talk about? I'm going to speculate that the Pope met J.D. Vance on Sunday and said, you know what, this is just impossible, and just said, I'm going to the other side. There's no getting through to this moron.
I would rather leave the planet than deal with this person anymore.
I'd rather see God tomorrow than go one more day.
Yeah, there's jokes on Blue Sky about how J.D. Vance killed the Pope because he hated the Pope so much.
Right. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
That's Well,
Sorry.
Speaking of Vance,
yes.
So the Independent, which is a UK newspaper, is reporting that they received a tip from a Washington source. They verified the source, And that source told them that the Trump administration has told officially the UK Prime Minister Starmer that the UK must repeal its hate speech laws if they want to finalize a trade deal with the United States. And leading those negotiations is the vice president, who likes to, apparently have sex with couches. If you want to remember that from the campaign.
Wow.
Yeah. Vance is demanding the Labour government roll back the laws against hateful comments. And what this would mean is that they want to make it legal for people to abuse and target the LGBTQ community and other minorities. So think of what Facebook did earlier this year, where they said explicitly in their policies, hey, yeah, you can call LGBTQ people anything that you want. You can say women are the property of men. Go for it. Well, this is now for an entire country.
Which is none of our darn business.
Well, actually, I want to get into that. So the Trump administration also wants the UK to scrap a new online safety law. Also fun. Safety. Vance, in a speech in Germany, recently said that liberalism and immigration are the, quote, most surefire ways to destroy democracy, and that DEI and the gays and the libs are eroding free speech. Now,
free hate speech, you mean?
They, Vance and Trump, are deporting people because they have expressed pro-Gaza views. Okay, regardless of how you feel about that situation, should you be deported? That's what they think. They are banning LGBTQ books from schools. Apparently, LGBTQ authors don't get to have free speech.
No.
And apparently, kids don't get to have free speech and get to decide what books they're going to read.
Or their parents.
And also, the parents who are pro-LGBTQ, apparently, they don't get to have those books in those schools to read to their kids. All right, so they don't get free speech.
Right.
They're passing "Don't Say Gay" bills.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't even mention gay curriculum in any type of elementary school, junior high, or high school, right? They're banning drag shows, okay? And they claim that they're defending free speech. If you acknowledge the biological realities of gender, that there's more to it than your sexual anatomy, you lose federal funding. They don't like what Harvard is teaching, so they're trying to get rid of funding to Harvard.
I was just reading a book that I know you're familiar with called Farm Boys, which is about men who grew up in rural environments on farms and discovered at some point in their lives that they were gay. And one gentleman who was born in 1945 told the story about how he wished he'd known somebody in that environment who could tell him that he was okay, could tell him this is what life is like. And he said, because I had no one like that, or didn't read a book or anything that would tell me that, I ended up marrying a woman, having 2 kids, and divorcing her 5 years later because I was what you just described, the America where gay people would hide in the shadows, destroy all kinds of other people's lives because they were slinking around in the dark. And this is what these people think. This is when they thought America was great. I've got news for you.
Yeah.
That's pathetic.
And notice I want to give a shout out. There's a comment in our YouTube chat. Adam totally agrees with you about the Pope.
Thank you, Adam. It begs the question, I think.
Yes, but yeah. So what you're talking about there. So this is actually not new of the U.S. conditioning trade deals to influence the laws happening in that country. So the U.S. State Department flagged several countries who were discriminating against women through their laws. They were doing it when a country was being particularly egregious and attacking their LGBTQ community.
Yes.
Right. But in those instances, we are looking at harm reduction. And progressives, generally speaking, don't like it when governments jail women for wanting to get a college degree.
That seems
Progressives
reasonable.
don't like it when governments are killing gay people.
Yeah.
Progressives don't like it when governments are using tanks to crush people they oppose.
When you think about
We're
it,
going to
that
have more
fair.
of this. Does it seem fair? I don't know.
Well,
we're going to have more on this when we come back from the break. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Gaily Show.
Hey, it's Tom. As the birds begin to sing and the days grow longer, there's no better time to spring into savings than now with All Energy Solar. Spring is perfect for home improvements, so why not choose a project that saves you money and helps create a cleaner, greener planet? While solar panels require an initial investment, the savings on your energy bills quickly add up. With a lifespan of at least 25 years, your system from All Energy Solar can save you tens of thousands of dollars over time. Act now and you can still take advantage of the 30% federal tax credit. Plus, you may qualify for additional incentives depending on where you live. The future is uncertain, but with solar energy, you can lock in your energy rates for years to come. With All Energy Solar's experience and expertise, they'll guide you toward a greener future and unlock the full potential of solar power. Take the first step toward energy independence and a greener future. Get a free consultation today at allenergysolar.com. That's allenergysolar.com.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease. It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about the joy of live fire cooking. Cooking over a live fire is the oldest and most basic form of cooking.
What's new is in the way fire is handled and its heat is managed.
It's easier to experience and enjoy the smell and taste of food cooked over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs live fire grills, fire pits, and ovens. Let us help you experience the smell, the taste, the fun of cooking with fire.
Pizza was first made and is still best made in an open fire oven. The radiant and conductive heat of a live fire is unmatched for wood roasting and baking artisan breads too.
Come see the many ways you can cook over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Welcome back to the Gaily Show. I am your host, John Parker. It is 21 minutes past the hour. Our call-in number, 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. What LGBTQ stories are you watching and paying attention to? Call in, let us know. Let's talk about it. Continuing our conversation from before the break. So the U.S., yes, has used trade policies and other types of policies to try to impact what other governments are doing. That is not new here. But I would say that progressives, when we're trying to do it, are trying to reduce harm towards marginalized people in those and other international countries. And I do want to acknowledge that the U.S. has also used international aid to bolster its image while just try to distract from terrible policies here at home. Mm-hmm. Read, Jim Crow, read, slavery, read, women not being able to vote, everything that happened in the 1960s with civil rights and the Vietnam War, right? So that also needs to be acknowledged. What Vance is doing is not new to United States trade policy and international relations. The fact, though, that they are trying to actively make governments repeal laws to harm the LGBTQ community, that's where it starts. That's egregious. That is why we are reporting on it. And they keep saying things like, we have no more free speech in this country. We have no more free speech in this country. DEI is getting rid of free speech. And as a former chief diversity officer, Does DEI get rid of free speech? Yes and no. So no, in the sense that we are not passing federal laws to, don't say MAGA. We're not passing those laws.
That's a good one, though.
We
I like
are
that.
we are not rescinding state funding for speech that we don't like. There are things that are being said at universities, Catholic universities, for instance, that we may not like, but we're not saying, hey, you're not going to get funding anymore that you applied for and you were awarded through our process. What we are saying in terms of does, DEI curb free speech, what we're saying is that you cannot call me an FAG anymore. That's what we're saying. All right. We're asking you for decency. We're not passing a law. You technically can still do it, but we are basically saying, you know what? It is not okay for you to call me an FAG on the street. You can't say it in the workplace.
Right.
All right. We are giving grant priorities to folks who are working with marginalized communities because we can see, hey, Minnesota has a great healthcare system. Unless you're a queer person or a person of color, then there's these weird disparities going on. I worked for an organization, Rainbow Health Initiative. We did the only community health survey every single year. We were the only ones really collecting LGBTQ health data. And we found usually about 2% of respondents were saying that they were being denied care because of their LGBTQ identity.
Yep.
And that was consistent year after year after year. So heterosexual people are not going to their doctors and being told, hey, you're a straight person. You can't get healthcare in the state of Minnesota. I'm not going to serve you.
Right.
But that was happening to LGBTQ folks.
Yep.
Right. So we see in grants, when you're applying for a grant and you're like, oh, well, this grant is for, the gays, and as a heterosexual, I'm being discriminated against. No, that's not actually what's happening here. Right? When we're looking at affirmative action plans, I wrote a lot of affirmative action plans, and people would be like, oh, well, why are you, adding people into the pool here? You're giving them an unfair advantage. And I would sit there and I would say, actually, I reviewed your interview pool and you somehow managed to get rid of everyone who identified as living with a disability. I don't know how you did that because I looked through the cover letters and I looked through the resumes and there was nothing in there that would say, hey, this person is living with a disability. But yet somehow hiring committee after hiring committee after hiring committee is eliminating all the people who did say on the affirmative action form that they live with a disability. How are you doing that? Clearly something is happening there. Something is happening there. And so, yes, we have an affirmative action process for me to say, hey, this person is actually qualified for this job. I am asking you to reconsider their application materials as you're conducting interviews. All right. That is not giving somebody a leg up here. Affirmative action was also saying, hey, you're not hiring Black people. You're not hiring gay people. So we're going to do something here to intervene. And then ideally, after a few years of having affirmative action plans, your workforce actually becomes reflective of the community that you're working in. And you really don't need an affirmative action plan anymore. Right. Okay, so that is what we mean when we're saying that DEI curbs free speech. There's a yes and a no to that. But the yes, when it's curbing free speech, is not saying that we're not passing laws and saying that you can't say FAG anymore.
Right. You're just saying, be your better self. Be a more fair-minded person.
Ideally.
Consider all people and how they got there and all that. This is not exactly what you're talking about, but I just noted that we now are up to 9 states with measles outbreaks. And I think of people
just all over the place.
People calling about, or people talking about making America great again. Well, we had eliminated measles in the United States as of 2000. And this person in HHS, whose name I won't say, and the person who lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, whose name I won't say, have managed to drag us back to what they must have considered America being great. So now we have 800 cases in 9 states and 3 deaths. And so if going back to the past is what you're interested in, that's part and parcel to it. Just like you're saying, people being mean to people of color or LGBT people. If that's what you thought when America was great, you got to really spend some time with yourself in a quiet room, because that is very warped thinking.
Okay. Well, we're talking about trade policy, so I'm not saying that measles is important, the outbreak is important, but there we go. There's another story that I want to get to here. So last week, Alabama passed their version of a Don't Say Gay bill. So the House of Representatives last Wednesday, the bill would ban teachers from displaying pride flags or buttons on school campuses. It would prevent any discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity through the 12th grade. So like history, couldn't have it in there. Social studies, couldn't have it in there. Politics, government courses, couldn't have it in there. We're basically saying that you cannot talk about the contributions of the LGBTQ community to the American republic in any way, shape, or form. Let alone when we get into sex ed. So yeah, problematic. I guess we should be happy that they removed a provision that would punish teachers rather, from using a student's preferred pronouns.
Yeah.
So I guess, that is something. There's two bills, actually. They are going to head to the Senate. There is less than a week left in the legislative session. When we come back, we are going to talk about Representative Nancy Mace and how the MAGA trolls are coming for her. So stay tuned. You are listening to The Gaily Show. Follow us on Blue Sky for more progressive news and analysis. We're at thegailyshow.org on Blue Sky.
Hi, Minnesota. Stephanie Miller here. Join me every weekday morning from 8 to 11 for a humorous look at politics and current events on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Art-A-Whirl is celebrating its 30th year. This popular free event is the largest open studio tour in the nation, a fan favorite with art lovers, families, and fun seekers alike. With 1,400 artists and 100 locations throughout Northeast Minneapolis, you'll meet potters, painters, weavers, woodworkers, and more. And you'll find all types of art at all price levels. Then there are the terrific bars, restaurants, and breweries in Northeast, plus music, entertainment, and art demos. With Art-A-Whirl, you're set for 3 days of wonder. Start planning now. Art-A-Whirl is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, May 16th, 17th, and 18th. Visit NEMA.org. That's NEMAA.org for details. You'll find an artist directory, maps, dining and brew guides, event and music schedules, even info on Metro Transit passes and trolley rides. Plus, new this year, a Passport app can win you prizes, a commemorative sculpture and raffle, a special beer from Prize, and 30 featured artists of Art-A-Whirl. That's May 16th through the 18th in Northeast.
Hello, everyone. I am Becky McNann, host of Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. This Sunday, tune in as we talk through how emotions are stored in our bodies and the physical and mental impact of this. If you have a question to share, visit our website at www.becomingtogethernn.com to find the Feels Out Loud page. We may share your question on the show. Join us at 9 a.m. to live and share mental health together.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Sunshine today with a high of 62, then overnight a chance of rain with a low of 46. For more than 40 years, the Great Wall Restaurant has been serving up Szechuan and Mandarin favorites. The Great Wall is located just north of 50th in France on the Minneapolis-Edina City line. Check them out at greatwallrestaurant.us. ATNF AM 950, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Coming to you live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome back to the Gaily Show. It is 33 minutes after the hour. I'm your host, John Parker. Jim Pounds, executive producer, in studio with me.
I think I've said enough today.
Keep on track. No, I'm joking. You're making some excellent stories and points here, and I don't want those to get lost in the idea that the MAGA Project 2025 conservative, sometimes centrist Democrats, a la Governor Newsom, former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, they want to take us back to a time period where it was okay to say all these horrible things about the LGBTQ community. And so when we are in DEI practices and we're saying, hey, maybe cool it. Like, you don't have to have an opinion about somebody's marriage. You don't have to have an opinion on, somebody's life. Like, you can just chill out, go and live yours, and maybe stop being a jerk. That's, ultimately where DEI is going. Now, do folks take it in a direction that is very, like the acronym? I think a lot of, there are some folks within the community that get very angry that you don't use the right acronym and all the da-da-da-da. And I steer clear. I love the acronym. I think it's beautiful. I think that what we understand about sexuality and gender, we're still learning about. It is a rainbow of understanding. So I like the acronym. And then there are people that are like, oh, you're being so militant and get rid of our free speech. Like, there's just heterosexuals, or why can't it just be lesbian and gay? And it's like, okay. Let's embrace science. Let's embrace understanding, recognizing that language is difficult and language is changing, but we can't sit there and be so rigid, because language changes, culture changes, and we should allow for that. And if somebody uses, the wrong pronouns one time, we can give them some grace. If they're being deliberate about it, then we ask for some accountability.
I think it's harder to be a good person, and it's a lot easier to be a crappy person. And I see the evidence of that, because if you're a crappy person or a selfish person, you're not going to make the effort to learn anything. I mean, I've had people say that to me. Well, I don't have time to read a book, or, yeah, but that's where your mind has to keep evolving. If you're not evolving, you're not keeping up. And to then turn that into something to be celebrated is ghastly.
I think it's easier to just be chill. And I think it takes a lot of work to be a jerk.
It takes
I like that.
Well,
it takes a lot of work to be a jerk. And they're putting in a lot of effort right now.
Wow.
A lot of effort.
That's hard. It's just hard to justify that. Think how exhausting that must be. I want to be a real moron.
Oh,
on purpose.
That is a great segue. An excellent segue.
Speaking of morons.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
So this is a story that happened a couple months ago. I am just learning about it through Blue Sky, and I'm not going to let this go because it is emblematic of the MAGA movement. Representative Nancy Mace. She was just in Iowa just this past weekend, ranting, using slurs against the queer community and against trans people. You should probably have seen the video. If you haven't seen it, it's a hoot of her screaming at a gay man in a mall who had the audacity to ask her when is she's going to have a town hall, and she's screaming at him and saying "F you, F you, F you." Yeah, it's on social media. Just Google that.
Oh.
But earlier this year, she was talking about how in support of her anti-trans legislation and her fight, she said, "Quote, I didn't fight like hell to become the first woman to graduate from the Citadel just for some man in a miniskirt to take away that achievement. Protecting women's accomplishments isn't a political talking point for me. It's personal." Okay. Here's where it gets delicious. Art Candy, a liberal pundit on X, said, a reminder that Nancy Mace was a DEI admission. The courts ruled that the Citadel couldn't exclude women from attending under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, the one that Donald Trump wants to eliminate.
Oh, yeah.
I guess who agreed? MAGA. Right-wing political commentator Matt Walsh said the girl boss feminism routine isn't just cringy, it also directly undermines our argument. The Citadel was a male-only space forced by law to admit females in the name of diversity and inclusion. This is the exact argument trans-identifying males used to invade female spaces. Nancy Mace was literally a beneficiary of a DEI program. It's a ridiculous and tone-deaf thing to brag about in this moment. And John Daniel Davidson also went after Nancy Mace. He writes for The Federalist, saying the lack of self-awareness on her part is mind-boggling. When a society destroys sex-segregated spaces, they all get destroyed. Maybe Mace should have thought about that before she destroyed the male-only Citadel to satisfy her own ego. Conservative writer, also at The Federalist, among other outlets, Mark Hemingway, wrote, "This wasn't an accomplishment on her part. It damaged a proud historical institution. The Citadel, like all military academies, should have remained men only." And this is what I hope folks stop asking Nancy Mace about having town halls. She's clearly not going to do it. And she is clearly just lost her mind when it comes to the queer community, particularly trans people. What we should be doing is going up and asking her reaction to the Federalist saying that she destroyed
this brilliant
the Citadel.
Yeah.
The political on her side, Matt Walsh is saying that she is a DEI candidate and she only got into the Citadel because of DEI. Like, this is what we should be asking her right now, because this is what it is about MAGA. You will never win. You will never win about MAGA. She has gone all in on MAGA. And when they are done with us, they are going to turn their knives on her. And they're already I mean, she is the loudest transphobe in Congress right now. The loudest.
Right.
And they are still, instead of being like, okay, well, yeah, look at her. She's passing legislation to, get rid of trans people. They're going after her.
But what is the psychology? And it's pervasive. There are an unbelievable number of white women, particularly, who hate women, who really vehemently hate women. And I have never understood this. I told you I used to argue with my mother about the Equal Rights Amendment. And I'm like, I'm on your side. Why are you arguing against women being equal citizens? And people like Nancy Mace and Brobert and Michelle Bachmann, there have been these self-hating white women now throughout American politics just crapping on the equality that they're entitled to. And there literally have been some of the biggest opponents to it, that whatever that mental problem is, or mental lack, or whatever it is mind-numbing to me.
I don't I don't subscribe to this, but the joke, I think, told in circles of maybe they were on to some. Well, how did it go? Every time I listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think maybe women shouldn't be in politics, and I do not believe in that.
No, I don't.
But what gets me about that is the idea that folks like Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert just go after feminism, and they would not be in Congress if it wasn't for feminism, right? They wouldn't have the vote if it wasn't for liberal women going out there. Women of all races going out there and saying, we are going to create a movement and we are going to get the 19th Amendment.
Right.
And here they're saying, well, no, we're not going to, have that anymore. We're going to get rid of feminism. We're going to get rid of liberals. It's so delicious to me that she's sitting there talking about her accomplishments at the Citadel, which us on the left would go, wow,
good for you.
First woman to get admitted into the Citadel and got through it. And, and we could be celebrating that right now.
Yep.
We're the side that would celebrate that.
Yep.
And instead, she's trying to use that to go after trans women. And in the process is being stabbed in the back by MAGA, who doesn't even believe that she should have been there in the first place. And that her being there destroyed the Citadel.
Well, you made a very important point.
And that is the progressive analysis
They
we're
will
bringing to the situation.
They will turn on, and you see it in Trump. He turns on everybody eventually. I don't care who you are, family member, next door neighbor, somebody he knew 20 years ago. He eventually turns on everyone because he's fueled primarily by self-hatred. And most of these people are fueled by hating themselves. And with Nancy Mace and her anti-trans thing, there's a reason for that. She isn't rationally thinking, I have this objection to trans people. There's some personal thing in her life, some person in her history, some person in her experience that she, just like Elon Musk, she's targeting them and using her public position to put her mental illness on display for everybody. But her hatred is not philosophical. I believe in most cases it's very personal.
I don't want to pathologize it and say that what she's doing is mental illness.
Well, it's a mental problem, isn't it? If you're
I
really,
think it is a calculated choice, and I think there are folks. I think there are folks on the left that do make the mistake of not understanding that people can choose to be cruel for the sake of being cruel, and I think that that's really hard to wrap your mind around. But there are people that make the choice, that see it as a political opportunity, or they see it, you know, when I look at that swimmer, Riley Gaines, I believe her name is.
Yeah.
This is a person who lost a race,
right?
Was 5th place and tied with a trans woman and blames the trans woman for her performance,
right?
Even though she was in 5th. So even if the trans athlete wasn't there, she still would have been 5th. But she found that she could be a cause célèbre and get on Fox News and go to the State of the Union if she plays their game.
But imagine all the people around that individual. I've often thought of this with Michelle Bachmann. Imagine all the people around her.
Let's not bring her into
but
this.
Who say to themselves, you're out of your mind. If they're good people, they must be aghast. Think of all these people surrounded by children who hate them or will grow to hate them over time. How do they keep up that pretense? Maybe in their own mind, maybe they can play that like Lindsey Graham. But how do you do that when you've got 25 people around you that see you're a lunatic? How do you keep that up? I don't understand it.
Pathologizing, but
well,
I get your point.
Yeah,
I get your point.
Thank you.
So anyway, for folks who, if you happen to run into Representative Nancy Mace, ask the Congresswoman how she feels about the Federalist and other MAGA commentators saying that she was a DEI admit to the Citadel.
Tell her she looks pretty today.
See, then you gotta, Jim. All right. So this is going to be a new segment for the Gaily Show. And it's going to be called, Is It Left-Wing Extremism?
I love this.
And it's going to take a serious look at an idea that the progressives are the same extreme as MAGA. This is came up in a conversation that I had with a friend recently about how progressives are just as bad as MAGA. And I went, how in the world could they possibly think that?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, fine. I will start in a segment. We'll take an issue and we'll look at it and we will ask, is it left-wing extremism? And today, taxes.
Oh.
So I'm going to start this now. I've got about a minute. Then we're going to go into the commercial break. Taxes. In the 1950s, who was president?
Dwight Eisenhower.
Dwight D. Eisenhower, the general who helped us led us to win World War II, right? He was a Republican, served from 1951 to 1963, or 1953 to 1961. Anyway, for the bulk of the 50s. He was not a left-wing extremist, was he?
No.
No, he was not a left-wing extremist.
Anti-gay, yeah.
So we're going to talk about the top marginal tax rate in the 1950s versus today. In the 1950s, the top marginal tax rate under a Republican president was...
I don't know, but I'm so excited to hear
91%.
Yes.
91%.
Make America great again.
All right, we're going to talk more about this. The difference. Is it left-wing extremism? You are listening to The Gaily Show. Be sure to support our sponsors and advertisers. They make shows like this possible. Visit them, shop with them, tell them you heard about them on The Gaily Show.
Hi, this is Paul Metza, host of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We have been on the air on AM 950 for 10 years. We feature cool people from all walks of life in all 50 states. We've had musicians, politicians, actors, poets, people with great stories or a tale to tell. Tune in every Saturday night at 6 p.m. on AM 950, and podcasts are available on all streaming services.
Hi, I'm Bruce Klopfleisch, a college political science instructor and attorney. Join me every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters. We dive into how civics, politics, and law affect you. Discover how government impacts your daily life, from the federal level all the way down to your local city. Each week, I'll share my key takeaways and teaching moments on crucial civics concepts to help understand what is happening in the current political environment. That's Politics Matters with Bruce Klopfleisch, Sundays at 5 p.m. or anytime on your favorite podcast app.
Did you know Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bakken airs 5 nights a week at 10 p.m.? That's 5 nights of talking about ghosts, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. We're talking about the paranormal every Monday through Friday with some of the most trusted names in the field. Join us and step into the unknown with Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bakken, Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. Only if you dare.
Dr. Stefano Sinacropi, an orthopedic spine surgeon and wellness evangelist, hosting the brand new Recharging the Human Battery show on AM 950 radio. My co-host Mandy Dickey and I will delve into various health topics, ranging from medicine to nutrition to exercise, emerging technologies, and yes, some way out there stuff. Will provide a balanced view of today's landscape, helping listeners navigate its complexities and hoping to change the way you think about your health. Recharging the Human Battery airs Saturdays at 11 a.m.
Hey, it's Patrick. Spring showers may bring May flowers, but they also bring big savings with Zero Res. And right now, you can beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking by calling our heroes at Zero Res. Zero Res removes winter's buildup and lingering odors, giving your home a fresh, spring-ready feel, preparing your home for the brighter days ahead. Just check out the almost 21,000 raving customer service reviews online with a 4.9 Google rating and see what all the hype is about. This month, get 3 rooms Zero Resified from Minnesota's #1 carpet cleaner, starting at just $119, and take $75 off an air duct cleaning as well. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero Res right now at 9520-RES or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Spell it backward or forward, it's the same. Zero Res.
Welcome back to the Gaily Show. I am your host, John Parker. We are starting in the middle of a new segment we're going to have here called Is It Left-Wing Extremism? As a lefty, as a gay, as a progressive, I've suddenly started getting this conversation of, you know, the progressives and the lefties are just as bad as MAGA. And so I'm going to take it one issue at a time and take a look and say, is it though? Is it left-wing extremism? And we're talking about taxes today. The top marginal tax rate in the 1950s under a Republican president, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, the man who led America and the free world to victory in World War II, the top marginal tax rate was 91%. Today, that number is 37%.
Yep.
Okay, this was the, all right, so then let's look at the effective tax rate for the top 1%. In the 1950s, the effective tax rate for the top 1% was between 42 to 45%, depending on the year, right? Today, actually, no, this is 2020. It was 26 to 28%.
America works for 3% of the population.
Okay. So the marginal tax rate and the effective tax rate were significantly higher in the 1950s under a Republican president who was re-elected.
Now, was some of that because of, I know they increased taxes to help pay for the war effort, and I don't know if that, but certainly that didn't go on throughout the 1950s. So to your point, we just expected
the
rich
point of
people
the
to pay more.
progressives. Yes, but the idea was that we had things to pay for. We had things that we were doing that we needed to have those rates.
Right.
So here's the diabolical number, though, that MAGA and the right want you to focus on, and frankly, some centrist Democrats. The percent of total income taxes paid by the top 1%. So this was how much of all of the income taxes in the 1950s, how much of it was paid by the 1%. And it was approximately 30 to 35% of all the federal income tax was paid by the 1%. As of 2020, that was 40%. Okay, so then they make this argument that, oh, well, see, look, like the percentage of overall taxes is paid more by us. Why should they, us, 5 billion trillionaires, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and all of them, why should we pay for everybody else? No. Let's just talk about that, should we? Oxfam International reported that in 2024, the number of billionaires in the world rose from 2,500 to just shy of 2,800. Their combined worth surged from $13 trillion to $15 trillion in the span of 1 year. The second largest annual increase in billionaire wealth since records began, from that 2023 period to 2024. Even if we took at the list of the 10 richest men in the world, 8 of whom live in the United States, if they'd lost 99% of their wealth overnight, they would still be billionaires. Okay? The top 10% of wealthy Americans now control 60% of the nation's wealth. From a report last fall from the Congressional Budget Office. Not a lefty think tank. The CBO puts out stuff all the time that upsets the lefties, right? So this is not a partisan office, the Congressional Budget Office. Their new report, released last fall, illustrated the role of Social Security in shoring up the wealth of middle class and working class Americans. If you subtracted Social Security from the equation, the top 10% control 70% of the nation's wealth.
It's the only thing that stands from a huge underclass.
To your point, for 90% of households, Social Security is the most important thing in Americans' portfolio. This is according to Monique Morrissey, the senior economist at the admittedly left-leaning Economic Policy Institute. Any cuts to Social Security would have a huge impact.
Yeah.
So
devastating.
This is just looking at the marginal and effective tax rates. This is not even getting into all of the fun little loopholes and ways that you can move money around. And it's also not getting into all of the money that isn't being invested in hospitals, that isn't being invested in schools. There was a interesting book. I did not subscribe to it. The tenets of it. Andrew Carnegie, Mr. Wealthy Man. Why does everything have Carnegie on it? Because he understood he called the book the Gospel of Wealth. And he said, if you're going to be a billionaire, you need to give money. Otherwise, the unions and everybody are going to come for you. So you need to be an upstanding member of your community, build hospitals, build schools, invest in the arts, help build roads, etc., etc., etc. They're not doing that today. Elon Musk is not doing that.
They're just flying rockets up in space. That's
they can talk about you can sit there and say the Gates Foundation, the Gates Foundation, the Gates Foundation. That is based off of the Gates Foundation's what they think is important to fund.
Yeah.
You can't even apply to a grant from the Gates Foundation. The Gates Foundation comes to you.
Yeah, Melissa.
That's not democratic.
Right.
All right. Taxes mean that you have representation. You can talk to your representative. You can talk to your senator. There is debate about how those funds should be spent. The Gates Foundation comes to you.
But we see the way Musk doesn't even think. He literally thinks you should just go buy the government. And that is a terrible mistake that we have to stop right now. Right now.
So taxes, progressive tax proposals. Is it left-wing extremism? No, It is not. The rates that we have seen, that we are suggesting, that Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, the Progressive Caucus, these are rates that we have already seen before in the United States of America. And if we're looking at the 1950s, which had huge high numbers in the margin and effective tax rates, that was under a Republican president.
Hallelujah.
Not a left-wing extremist president. So there is a situation where you can say it is not left-wing extremism. That is all for us today. The Matt McNeil Show is coming up next. Stay tuned for Native Roots Radio, one of the most original programs in the United States, here on AM 950. That's right. Connect with us on Blue Sky. And until tomorrow at 2 p.m., keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.